For as many times as you hear background noise in these videos, it's probably my third retake anyway, because my dog Amelia is going crazy. But this is 2 bench days put together. I've been working on a new setup, so you can see that in some of the videos, basically where I plant my feet where I want them, which hopefully is where they're going to end up, basically even with my hips or almost behind my butt, so that you get just a hell of an arch, and then you grab the bar where you're going to bench it and kind of slide yourself forward, which works good for me because I don't really slide on the bench the way some people do, so that works out really good. This is something I saw on Instagram, the Australian strength coach talking about, but he was taught by Sakril, which is one of the great Russian benchers. He was one of the first guys that was really chasing the raw record. Right around that time when Scott Mendelson had done 700, Eric Spoto 740, Sakril, all those guys were pushing that, and obviously now Julius Maddox, he's got the raw record at 780, and he's pushing 800 pounds. Freaking amazing. So this is the top set of this day. So 374 for 4 reps, and you can see it was a struggle to get that 4th rep, which really shows how much my bench is down, actually. Weirdly enough, from when I was training strongman, it was a little bit stronger. I had done a set of 405 for 5. Similar struggle, but, more weight, more reps. But we're just hammering the volume here. Lots of triples and 4s on this day. I think this is all 4s. Just brought the weight down each time. Really working on that setup. I will say, and I really hate to use equipment as an excuse ever, but this used to be the bench of the gym that everybody wanted to use, and then lately somehow it got crooked. So every time I was doing it, felt like there was way more pressure on my left arm, and then I was struggling to lock out my left tricep. So it just felt weird. But overall, this bench day went fine. Got most of the volume in. Just feeling good in that setup overall. But, it's heavy weight. So, tough day. Definitely working through it. And after this, my coach said, basically, we need more volume, more specificity. So we'll probably get away from some of the banded benches. Not going to see a lot of Spoto presses and stuff like that. Did do some really nice dips afterwards. So this is with a 25-pound plate. But the big concentration, I could knock out more reps, but we were really concentrating on getting that elbow depth. And you can see I was going pretty deep. I weigh 340 pounds, 330 pounds, depending on the day. And, so being able to just do body weight dips as well as it was felt pretty good to me. Always feels like a cool flex. These also feel really good. I have been dealing with a lot of pain in my right elbow, which is just super common once you get going into a prep and stuff like that. It'd be a lot worse if I squatted with a straight bar. I never do. You'll always see my squats with either an SSB or lately it's been the Yukon bar, Buffalo bar, just something with a curve and people don't believe me, man. My own clients will get in arguments with me about this. When their elbows or their shoulders start to hurt right after we reintroduce heavy straight bar squats at the end of a peaking cycle. Because for the first 6 weeks, I really won't have them use a straight bar. I would rather them use SSB for 3 weeks, Buffalo bars for 3 weeks. And then you can do 6 weeks with a straight bar, but it minimizes the amount of time that you spend putting that stress on your body. Plus those bars, SSB and Yukon and Buffalo bars, anything with a curve like that, it does put more emphasis on your lower back or your upper back development. And so that's really important. This was some nice reverse pec deck. Yeah, the ability to have a huge upper back is just so underrated in the sport, and I feel like everybody's gotten towards specificity and doing their SPD days and obsessing about RPE, and they're just not spending enough time just putting muscle on their bodies. Which also, just doing high amounts of volume will do that as well. So if you are in specificity, the volume will build it up. So you see today I went over to the Texas squat rack, which normally I hate, but weirdly enough, when I use this new setup where I'm sliding in like this, it does feel a lot better. So I didn't really have a big problem with it. So on this day, I had Devin and Natalie. You see them here. They're going to look like paid actors in some of these videos because they react to how fast my bar is moving. Super cool. Definitely always pay your clients to react to your videos so that they look super cool. There's Natalie dancing in the background. But you see, this is the setup. So I never used to do this, but basically just by setting my feet first, sliding back, and then coming in, I'm getting a really nice tight arch setup. It's feeling really good, getting my sternum and chest up in the air. Really also making my shoulders feel better during bench. I've had less overall shoulder pain, which is good because, hammering these high volume sets. Today was actually an attempt at a 6x6. This is the last warm up. That was what, 308. And then we went to 336 pounds, and I started an attempt at 6x6, 6 sets of 6. 6x6 was something that J.M. Blakely was a big fan of, former West Side barbell lifter, but also, I mean, just like one of the bench gods on his own. He set world records in, I think, like 8 different weight classes or something like that. He had an amazing ability to bulk up and then cut down so he could set all the records in all the weight classes. Absolute master of bulking and cutting. Also, the guy who credited with inventing the JM press, so he definitely knew something. But he always said, I've heard this in interviews, he always said that when his 6x6 went up, his bench went up. And I think that's a really interesting thing. I've never spent as much time as he talks about and just doing 6x6s, and with my own clients, I'll usually put it in like a buildup in an off season. We'll kind of ramp up the volume over time from week 1 to week 6, and then I'll have week 6 on bench be a 6x6. And then usually at that point, I'll start cutting it down into triples. And so maybe you'll be working in any range from like six sets of 3 to like 8 sets of 3, and even the dreaded 10 sets of 3, which all of my clients look at in their program and are like, that's wild. And then they do it and they end up liking it. And a lot of them end up requesting that we do 10x3 again. It gives you a lot of chances to set up on the bench. So like if you're doing what I'm doing, where you're trying to master the setup, or you're trying a new setup, getting down and doing it with an actual working weight 10 times is really helpful. Right there, Shane was harassing me. He's like, yeah, you're going to pause all these reps. And I was like, no, bro, this is the 5th set of 6. And yeah, if I pause these, I'm going to fail. And I did. I ended up failing on that like 3rd rep of that one. And then I grabbed Natalie, and she was like, I can't even lift this weight, which she can. I'm not going to fail completely. And immediately I failed. And she did help me off with that. Natalie's stronger than she acts like she is. But yep, more bench